Hey, what's up, Niner Nation, Red and Gold freaks? This is the call before the storm, Friday. Just looking forward to Sunday's matchup against the Rams. If you checked out the last episode, that's where I really broke down the Niner matchup with the Rams and SoFi. Can't wait to see that sea of red take over there. Also covered the Green Bay Packers victory over the Green Bay Packers last weekend. But this episode is more about this current Jimmy G debate, which really has been quite disappointing for the most part. And I guess it's disappointing to an extent because A, I'm a big fan of his. B, I'm a 49 and nut. And C, yeah, I could understand why some people have been questioning him a little bit with the stats, especially in the last three games where he's thrown an interception. In the Ram game, final finale, he threw two. Against the Cowboys, he threw one, and last week he threw one. But I just can't get over the extreme amounts of hate that this guy's getting. It's amazing. And I see a lot of it coming from 49er fans or so-called 49er fans, which I really don't understand. And I have to backtrack a bit, go back in time to 2 years ago when he could do no wrong and he was playing lights out. Um, he was absolutely killing it 2 seasons ago when he had that full starting season. And we went 13-3 and went to the Super Bowl, and his stats were flawless. He had, you know, 3,978 yards, 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He was only sacked 36 times, and he had that great quarterback rating of 102.0, 69.1 completion percentage, and his record was 13-3 as a starter. Prior to that, of course, he had the injury, the knee injury. He was 1-2. You really can't go by that season, although his numbers for the most part in those first three games weren't bad. But then if you go back to his start with us when he ran that 5-0 record. He was again, stats were looking good, man. 1,500 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he was 5-0. So last year was kind of a wash, although again, his stats weren't completely horrible for the short time amount that he played because of the injuries. He had 1,096 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. It was 3-3, although you can't put that record on him. He only played in 6 games, so he missed 10 games due to injury. And of course, his problem has been staying healthy, but this season has been a big turnaround to that, and we've seen him battle through injuries all season long, whether it was the ankle or whether it was the thumb, and now the shoulder, unfortunately. So he's been durable, I think, and been better, and he's battled through and been a very good vocal leader. Always positive, always an optimist. Never really see him kind of down or negative in an interview or whatnot, no matter what's going on. And for the most part, I mean, he's 9-6 this year, and again, 3,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and he had a let's see, quarterback rating was 98.7, which is pretty damn good. So I don't know what what people are judging this off of. I mean, I see it. I've seen the games, and yeah, there have been games that he hasn't maybe performed his best. But just looking, if you go back again, you always go to the numbers and do the numbers from this past season. I mean, he did throw for over 300 yards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, for a guy like that who's not really he's really not been known to throw for 300 to 400 yards per game. That's not too bad, and his completion percentage for a good majority of those games, I mean, was over 70. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. He had over 70. The lowest, obviously, was actually last week, 57.8. But other than that, again, looking at the numbers, I don't understand where all this is coming from. Okay, I think people are mainly concerned with the interceptions in the last 3 weeks, which is understandable. Especially last week, there were a couple bad passes that he threw out to the flats that looked like more like lobs. Some of them were ducks. But for that point, for that, I don't understand all the hate, man. And I've seen it all season long. I've seen it predominantly on social media, on Facebook. There's a couple of pages. I think I forgot what it's called. Die Hard 49 fans, whatever the fuck it's called, which is absolutely just ridiculous because they judge, some of them judge what a diehard fan is, which is absolutely stupid. But you're getting a lot of people that you don't even know who are just throwing their opinions up there. And you don't know if these people are true fans, how long they've been watching the game, how long they've been following the team, if they're watching every game. I mean, you got to be objective with this, but you also got to be smart. Like a lot of these people just don't know what they're talking about, of course. But I can't get away from the fact that the move for Trey Lance is what also I think kind of had a hand in this. And as much of a Shanny fan as I am and a John Lynch fan, I love them. I think they've done a phenomenal job. I still am going to stick by my opinion and say that the move to get Trey Lance, it's nothing against Trey Lance because I can't judge a person who we've really never seen play. And I do hope he turns out to be an absolute stud. But the initial buildup and the move to get him, the way we got him, was incorrect. You gave away too much equity for a guy you knew nothing about. Okay? For a guy who, you know, played at a small college, didn't play too much in his senior year, whatever the case. You just don't give up that much for someone, especially 2 first-round draft picks. But I think that move also gave a lot of people the ability to hate more on Jimmy G and cast him away. And his mistakes have become, when he does make mistakes, as all quarterbacks do, they've become like exclamation points for haters or people that want to get rid of him, just to say, "Oh, look, there you go. That's why we got to get rid of him. That's why we got to get rid of him." I don't get it, especially with the way he's helped turn the season around. They were 2-5 at one point. They were looking terrible, and then the season was resurrected. And look at where they are now in the NFC Championship games. And he had a big hand in that. And if you think I'm full of shit, forget what I know. Forget me. I'm just a fan, a diehard fan. Look at his teammates, how they're backing him. Look at how coaching is backing him, despite what has happened. Okay, so this guy does something. Okay, I don't care what anyone says. He's a good quarterback. And these experts, these people can say whatever they want. Stephen A. Smith's the pain in the ass. Been on Jimmy G's nuts for a long time. Speaking of experts or whatever, and the negative commentary and negativity towards Jimmy G, this Mina Kimes, I want to give Jeff Garcia, a 49er, a 49er great, an all-time 49er great. And if anyone there has anything that is differing with me or doesn't think that's true, well, you better go back and check the tapes, because Jeff Garcia was by far one of the most talented, underrated, hardworking players that I've ever seen, and one of my all-time favorite players, just by the way he played the game fearlessly. I want to give Jeff Garcia a special shout out for going back at Mina Kimes with his own comment defending Jimmy G, and the articulate, smart, cerebral way that he answered it, because Jeff Garcia is a very intelligent guy. He was a very intelligent player, and he's a great analyst, man. He's one of the few that I like to listen to, because a lot of them are full of shit. Jeff Garcia really has a good understanding of the game and of the quarterback position and of San Francisco, of course. So that's why I love listening to him. And he's also been a mentor for other quarterbacks, which is great. But that being said, a special shout out to him, because I love the way he jumped in and defended Jimmy G and stuck up for him. And that was great to see. And I love the way teammates have done the same thing, and a lot of fans who have stuck up for him. And I'm one of them. I can't help but really like the guy. And I think that he's already solidified himself to be the quarterback of the 49ers next season, despite what the rumors say, despite whatever. Guy has helped us get to the NFC Championship game, and after Sunday, we'll be in the Super Bowl. He has solidified his position as a starter for the team. I don't give a shit about anything else, and I understand you drafted this kid to, I guess, to be the next thing or the next whatever. I didn't understand the move then. I don't understand the move now, and it's nothing against him. Hope he turns out to be a talent, but we didn't need a quarterback really. I mean, yeah, we could have had somebody else back there that you could have signed as a veteran to back up Jimmy because of the injuries and whatnot, but you didn't really need to trade away all that equity to pick this Trey Lance kid unless you were going to go out, even if you went after a Trevor Lawrence there was nobody really else up there that was, they're all rookies. And unless it was a diamond in a rough type of guy, as in Herbert or Joe Burrow last season, or a quarterback, I just don't agree with the move. I never agreed with the move, and I hate it. And I hate looking at mock drafts that are coming up this year and us not being there. So I'm wondering, when we reach the Super Bowl this season, which we will, what's going to happen with management? Because right now, I think that, again, I know this is a what if, and I know this is obviously this is not, probably most likely not going to happen. I can't see it happening, but it made me wonder, what does this mean for Trey Lance exactly? Are you just going to hand the keys to the kingdom over to him, knowing that he's still only, really not ready, still a young kid? I think and I understand that money is involved big time here with the salary cap, because we have a lot of players that we have to resign, and they're going to, you're going to wonder if and when, what Jimmy G's going to want, what they're going to give him, or what they're going to offer him, if they're going to offer him anything for that matter. But how can you not sign him? Okay, so what does this mean for Trey Lance? Is he going to sit another season? Well, I mean, that does happen. There are quarterbacks that have sat behind greats and have had to wait their time. We saw that with Aaron Rodgers, or with Brett Favre. Steve Young had to do it with Joe Montana, and I'm not comparing them to any of those guys, but still, you got to wonder what's going to happen. I was thinking about, what if you offered Trey Lance in a trade to try and get back into that first round? I know that's not going to happen, obviously, but like, well, what if you offered to trade him to get more back from those drafts, and you can't get a first round draft pick? What if you can get maybe, another second round draft pick or another third round? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just curious to know what's going to happen. And again, I have to blame that move for a lot of the hate and heat that Jimmy G's getting, because I don't think that situation helped. It didn't help anything really. If anything, it hurt him, and it put him under the radar. But it also made him have to take his time to shine, and he's done that. I mean, we're in the NFC Championship game, and he's had a big hand in that. So I don't understand all this hate towards him. I mean, people write some wicked shit about this guy. And again, they want to break down numbers and go by the stats, and I get it. Maybe he didn't have the best game last week. I mean, weather was a thing, his hand was a thing. So, but that happens. And in fact, I saw a couple other good posts out there breaking down how, Montana didn't have great numbers either in the playoffs when they were making a Super Bowl run. And he was through a couple of interceptions in a couple of games. Couldn't get anything going in a few games. And how did they end up? The Niners ended up winning the Super Bowl. I think that was in '84, I want to say. And I'm just looking at the stats right now as we speak. That's the year they were 15-1 under the great Bill Walsh. And in the playoffs, of course, they beat the Giants, the Bears, and the Dolphins. And just looking at some of the stats from that season, Montana, did have a fairly good season. 28 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. This is back in '84, of course, when you could maul quarterbacks 100%, slam into them. It didn't matter. It was not like it was today. But against the Giants that year, he threw 3 picks in that first game. He also threw 3 touchdown passes and threw for over 300 yards, but he threw 3 interceptions. Okay, so that was pretty intense. One of them, Harry Carson, returned for 14 yards for a touchdown. It was a pretty close game. Well, it wasn't a pretty close game. The Niners beat them 21-10, but it was a semi-close game. In the next matchup, the NFC Championship against the Chicago Bears, in which the Niners blanked the Bears 23-0. Montana was 18 of 34 for 233, one touchdown, two picks. Those aren't great numbers. Those aren't the best. That's almost 50%, but they won the game. So, again, you see that these things do happen. I mean, it happens to quarterbacks all the time. And again, I'm not comparing Montana and Garoppolo, but you have to take these things into consideration. You have to know your history here. Okay, for all things, he hasn't played that bad whatsoever. In fact, in the season finale against the Rams, I thought he showed exactly who he was. He showed it all. He showed his balls. He showed his heart. He could have crumpled in that game and just whatever, but that didn't happen. He came on back after the two interceptions, after being down 17-0, and led that team really well. Against Dallas, again, he threw one bad pass, that pick. Last week, he threw a couple bad passes. One of them only happened to be intercepted, but a couple others could have been, yeah. But again, like I said, you got to take into consideration his hand injury, the shoulder injury, and the weather. Okay? So I don't know where all this hate's coming from, man, but it's really disappointing to see, But I think it's great though, because I love the fact that he never kowtows to the negativity. He's always positive. He's got his teammates around him positivity. And after this weekend, after they win and he has himself a good game, which he does need. He does need I would love to see him have a great outing. He's going to stick it up all these so-called experts' ass. And I don't know what makes these people experts that are saying this. I never heard of this lady Kimes at all. I've never heard of. I don't know what makes her an expert. I don't know what makes Stephen A. Smith an expert because you watch the game so much. Well, I watch the game so much, bro. Just like a lot of other people watch the game. So does that make us experts? I don't know. Maybe. But I don't know where these people come off as their opinion being, the high, mighty, and biblical. I don't think it's like that, but I think because they have a platform, they have the ability to do whatever and say whatever. And for some reason, some people take that and run with it. And unless you're watching every game, unless you're watching this guy's career, unless you've seen him do all these things up and down, good and bad, you really can't make an assessment whatsoever. And even then, we're not on the field. We're not there. We're not coaches. Hopefully they know better than we do. I hope so. I think so. But again, the amount of bullshit this guy's getting right now is just ridiculous, especially at this time of the season in the NFC Championship game. And again, I could understand that they broke it down with the last four quarterbacks standing, and you got Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo, you got Patrick Mahomes, and you got Joe Burrow. Yeah, I get it, man. Look, Patrick Mahomes is a freak of nature, much like Josh Allen is. I mean, those are guys that are playing at such a dynamic level and are so athletically gifted, whether they're running the ball, throwing the ball off balance across their body, going to the floor and still being able to make throws. There, you look, a talent like that comes around a dime a dozen, man, without a doubt. And Joe Burrow's on his way. I mean, he's a phenomenal quarterback. I think he's going to be an absolute juggernaut for many years to come. So again, those two guys are studs. Those three guys, I should say, that they're mega studs. Herbert's a stud on Los Angeles Chargers. There's a slew of quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford is more of a gunslinger type with a good arm, who's a decent quarterback. I said this before. It was a good move for the Rams to sign him, but I don't give the ball to Matthew Stafford in 2 minutes and say, go win me the game. I don't see it. I mean, I hate if I'm going to compare him and Jimmy Garoppolo, I'll take Jimmy Garoppolo because I like the way he's much better under pressure, much calmer, and has a very, um, I think has a very good feel for the game, much different than Stafford does. I mean, because obviously Stafford has a better arm. He's in a totally different offense, but I'll take Garoppolo over Stafford any day of the week. So, and I think, of course, Garoppolo is a different type of quarterback. He may not have the arm that Stafford has. He may not have the feet that Lamar Jackson has, but that doesn't mean that he's, any less of a quarterback. And I think a lot of it has to do with the narrative in the NFL, of course, being pass, 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 throw for over 4,000 yards, get 40 touchdown passes a year, or throw for 400 yards a game, 4 touchdown passes. That's great. But guess what? That narrative, where's that getting anybody? And the last time I checked, look where the Niners are. The Niners are totally opposite that narrative. They're a running team first, a very physical team, and they're in the NFC Championship game. And if you wash out last year, because it was a total wash with the injuries, they made it to the Super Bowl and they made it back to the NFC Championship this year, being on what they are, having the same system that Kyle Shanahan installed and that they go by. So something's working there. So this narrative doesn't really work. Doesn't mean shit. Okay. It's just an opinionated thing of the times that we see in a lot of sports. And I broke it down. I analyzed it similar to basketball in the NBA, where everything is 3 point, 3 point, 3 point, but that's bullshit. Because eventually you're gonna have it's gonna roll back the other way, and the post up game is gonna come back. It's just the way it works. You just can't have it one way. So again, you have to look at this. You have to look at this correctly. And there are a lot of people I see who post a lot of very smart, well researched things about Jimmy Garoppolo and his stats and him as a leader and what he's been able to achieve with the 49ers and how he's led them. There are some extremely smart people, but I think for the most part, and I see it on a grand scale level with a lot of these so-called experts, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I cringe when I hear them talk. And I cringe because I'm like, how do you have, I know you're giving your opinion and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But you got to you got to kind of get base that opinion off a lot of things, off of how many games have you seen him play? Okay. How many situations have you seen him in? Have you seen him in a 2-minute situation? Because I'll tell you this, I've seen him in a lot of 2-minute situations this year, this season. I've seen him lead the team right down the damn field. Boom, 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 completion, completion, completion all the time. And I don't want to hear that's not 40 yards, not 50 yards. The guy's accurate. He's on the key. Look at the numbers. Then you have to consider the numbers too. You got to play the numbers too. And you can't just do a total money ball type of thing with just live by the numbers. It has to be an aspect of your opinion. And the numbers are on his side. Look at his record as a starting quarterback. Look at his record as a 49ers quarterback. Look at his win percentage. Look at his completion percentage. Look at his rating. I don't know what else people want. I really don't understand it. I think a lot of these haters have nothing better to do than just throw bullshit out into the air and see if they get a response. I mean, what else do you have to talk about? What else do you have to focus on? What the focus should be is the direction this team is going on. The fact that the guy has played nicked up since the Titan game when he got slammed and hurt his thumb and done pretty damn good for the most part. I mean, I would have thought that after the Ram game, the total opinion would have changed, but it didn't. After the Cowboy game, you figure maybe people are going to change their opinion about Jimmy G. It didn't. After last week's win, it didn't. So I don't know what else you want. Okay, he's not Blake Bortles at all. Not Blake Bortles. He's not Trent Dilfer at all. And I'm not trying to diss those guys, but what I mean by mentioning them is if you know your stuff, Blake Bortles played on a Jaguars team that got to the AFC Championship game a couple years ago under head coach Doug Marrone on a team that was defensively spectacular. Blake Bortles really didn't, put much out there to help that team. Trent Dilfer wasn't a bad quarterback at all. I think he was a decent quarterback, but he also played on a Baltimore Ravens team that was a defensive juggernaut. So Jimmy G is not those guys. Okay, you can't. I keep seeing these pyramids or these quarterback trees where they rate the quarterbacks, and of course they always have Brady and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes first, which I understand. And you got Jimmy like in the lower tiers. I don't get that. I don't know what you're basing this on. I really don't get it. And again, I think it has to do with this narrative. The guy doesn't throw for 300 or 400 yards every game, or he doesn't throw 5-6 touchdown passes, or he's not running across the field throwing across his body. But that's kind of like saying you're basing everything off of everyone had to be Michael Jordan, but there were so many other greats at the time, like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Charles Barkley. Keem Olajuwon, Clyde the Glide Drexler. You can't just base it off one guy's skill set and what he's doing. You have to look at this at a bird's eye view and kind of be judgmental or opinionated or objective there. You have too much people just following the long line of bullshit. That's a lot of it doesn't matter. The ends justify the means, and they're in the NFC Championship game. And this guy's led this team left and right. And like I said, I'm not just saying because he's a good leader, that's everything, but that's a big hand in it. Okay. If anything, you saw this past weekend, you saw what, two NFL quarterbacks, Tom Brady and Josh Allen, get knocked right out. So yeah, that's great that you have all these skills, and they're two of the best there is in the league right now. Especially Brady playing at 44 and throwing for over 4,000 yards, and at this age, still doing it. But they got bounced, and the Bucks got bounced by a shitty team for that matter. The Packers were a lot better than the Rams. So point being that sometimes you can't go by whatever the narrative thing is. It just doesn't work that way. You gotta watch each game individually, man. And if you haven't been doing it this season, if you really haven't done it, I don't know what to tell you. You're missing out. You have no form of reference when you're judging this guy, because he's getting more flack than anyone I've ever seen at such a weird time. And just by looking at these stats, I mean, look at his numbers, man. Break the games down. I mean, especially you break them down against good teams. When they lost to Green Bay that in week 3, his numbers weren't terrible at all. He was 25 of 40, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Those aren't bad numbers whatsoever. Against Seattle, when they lost, his numbers 14 to 23 for 165, a touchdown, a pick. Okay, yeah, so not great. Against the Colts, I think Mayer could have been his worst game. What was he? 16 to 27, 181, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. That was a game they should have won. Then against the Bears, 17 to 28 for 322, not a pick, not a touchdown. And then against Arizona in the blowout loss, 31-17, again, pretty decent numbers, 28 of 40, 326, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Against the blowout of the Rams the first time, 15 to 19, 182, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Great game, if you ask me. Does it have to be 300 yards for it considered to be great? Bullshit. Against Jacksonville, 16 to 22 for 176, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He was rolling. Without a doubt. The guy's never, he's never had a game where he's thrown 5 or 6 interceptions. You've never seen that. So, again, I don't know where this hate's coming from. I think it's just ridiculous. But it's also good for him because I enjoy watching him just be positive and be optimistic and never bow down to it. And I do want to see him have a lights out game this week, and I think we definitely need that. And against the Rams last time, he was 23 at 32, 316, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. But in that second half, man, he came alive. So I think, I just want to see him have a real solid game. Maybe even if it's 1 touchdown, no picks, 2 touchdown, no picks. Doesn't have to be over 300 yards. That's a bunch of bullshit. If he throws for the high ones and the low twos or the mid twos or the high twos, I'm happy. As long as they win, I don't give two shits. And I think every 49er fan feels the same way. But Jimmy G should be our guy next season. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what any expert says, analyst, whatever. Bullshit. He should be our guy. He's proven it time and time again. I don't know why you're going to get rid of him. He's only 30 years old. He's still got plenty of time. This team is only getting better. They can restructure contracts to re-sign him. There's always a way to do it. They're also going to have some guys that they're not going to re-sign because that happens every year, regardless of how the team finishes. So he's got to be our guy next season. I cannot see them doing away with him. It just doesn't make any sense. I can't see them going this far and then all of a sudden next season Trey Lance is the guy. I just don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm not saying that Trey Lance hasn't had a good grasp of the offense. I don't think that's the case whatsoever. But I also just can't see it happening because I just don't think the turnaround is going to be like that. especially when the Niners are built to win. That window is still there. In fact, I think they've extended it with the season they've had this year. A lot of people feel that it closed last season with the injuries and whatnot, but I don't go by that. I think it's still open, especially after the season they've had this year. You know, and again, look, like I said, guys like Patrick Mahomes, he sat his rookie season. He didn't play. I know the next year he was the starter, and he had an amazing season. I mean, 5,097 yards, 50 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. A guy, it was an absolute freak show, and they went 12-4. Now, again, things like you cannot expect, and I'm not saying Trey Lance can't do it, but I'm just saying you can't expect him to get those numbers exactly. And he's in a totally different offense, totally different system. You can, and listen, if you could do that, that's great. But you can't expect that to happen. Okay. You got to be somewhat realistic. But look, stranger things have happened. But I cannot understand how Jimmy won't be our guy next year. And whatever happens from this point on, I think it's solidified that he should be the quarterback. There's nothing else he should really has to do in order to prove that he has to be it, because we know what he's capable of. We've seen it. And if you don't know that by now, then you haven't been following at all. And a lot of people, that's the case. They just don't know what they're talking about because you haven't been watching the games. You haven't been following that long, which is kind of strange because you call yourself a fan or whatever. And even if you're not, if you know the sport, you should know that, the guy's kind of proven it already. So I don't know where this flack is coming from, man. But all I'm saying is be objective. Know your stuff. Know the numbers. Go back and watch the films. Go back and watch 2 minutes. Go back and watch the intense moments, minute to go, them driving them down, 2 minutes to go, them driving them down. Go back and watch that a little bit, okay? And then make an overall decision. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to having him just have himself a game this Sunday. I really want to see him just do damage. I think he's going to do it. And I know the Niners are going to absolutely pound on this overrated cotton candy Rams team and move on to the Super Bowl. So, with that being said, I look forward to this Sunday, as all you Niner nuts out there. I can't wait to celebrate with you all after this victory or during this victory as we ride high to the Super Bowl. So, thank you for listening. Niner Nut out.